Hi YouTube, it's Diane. To this take number 2, I have a microphone and I tried to do it and I have to fiddle with it more before I do a full video with it because it's just really clunky. And I'm not sure if I'm too close. No, because it's not wireless. I don't know. Technology. Technology is technology. So today is July 22nd, 2022. Yesterday was my birthday, and last year I turned 50, so this year I turned 49. Isn't that how it works? That's how it works. I hope your summer is going well. Usually about my birthday time, then I start looking toward fall because yeah, you start prepping school and you just all the things. But I will enjoy the warm weather as long as I can, except the humidity. Oh my, we've been having, I mean, it's the land of 10,000 lakes. Technically there's over 15,000 because there's an actual legal definition of a lake in Minnesota. I don't know what it is, but I know there is one. And yeah, it's just that humidity. Oh man. It just sucks the life out of you. The heat is bad enough, but that humidity, oh. Today, or yesterday, I just ran errands, and I ended up at Stitch. So I have some haul to show. Doesn't count for Stitch from Stash because it's a gift, birthday, there you go. But, yeah, the weather, I mean, it's nice and sunny, it's in the 80s, low 80s. But the humidity and enough of a breeze just to keep it comfortable. Not the soupiness that you walk out and you feel like you're 10 pounds heavier because it's just the air is just pressing on you so bad. It wasn't that, thankfully. But I've already done this video, so hopefully I'll remember everything I said. And that's probably one reason my voice is a little scratchy. But we will go with it. So, since my last video, I know I did my last video toward the end of June. I didn't mean to go this long, but I had some health things. When you have, well, I have an undefined autoimmune condition. It has to do with my digestion, which most of them do. My energy, don't. And I had to be on a prescription, which I had gotten to the point in this whole process where my energy was more even. I mean, I'd have little blips here and there, but not the big yo-yo. And then when I did the prescription, which I needed, and it worked, did its job. Expensive as all get out, but it worked. I think it's kind of thrown my system, so I have to kind of get back to where I need to be. And so I've been struggling there a little bit. Because when I have no energy, I mean, I have no energy. And to be honest, since I've had COVID, I had COVID at the beginning of the year. Well, the end of last year, beginning of this year. When I have no energy, it's a little more. So I think that, and you know, I don't know where the COVID came from, but I definitely had it. I tested positive, and now I have the natural immunity, but the more they find out about COVID, yeah, it's one of those unexplained things at this point. But thankfully I have some really good quality care around me, and just keep putting the next step forward. So I have a little bit of everything. I think we'll tackle quilting haul. I don't have that much. I didn't have the energy to quilt. And sometimes I was doing the quilting. So this is piecing. This is my daughter's quilt. these are all foundation paper piece, so I got to take all the papers off the back, and I have them off of most of the blocks except for one. It might be this block, I don't know. When I was taking the papers off, I discovered some seams that they're not there, so I have to re-sew those seams. And then today when I was setting this up to cover my ugly bookshelf, I think it's this one, I found another seam that I have to fix. So now I have to go through every block, every seam, before turning this over to the long armor next month. This is piecing. When you take this and put it on batting and then put it on a backing, that's quilting. And I was doing that with some of my smaller pieces because I'm not doing this on my machine. I don't think I can handle it. But on smaller, I've been doing some small wall hangings, and I just didn't have energy to do that. It just totally like my arms were 3 inches longer. It's like when I had COVID, to be honest, is kind of how I felt. And I know it wasn't a relapse of COVID because I had COVID from November to beginning of January. I had a long bout with COVID. I thought it was better, then I wasn't, and I thought it was better, and so thankfully I didn't have the fevers and stuff that other people have gone through. But with that in mind, I haven't done a lot of quilting. Piecing is my favorite part of quilting. I did, however, put the binding on her older brother's quilt that was just sitting there. The binding was done, the quilt is done. I put them together and he's got it on his bed now. So, but I went to my quilt shop to pick up my quilt of the month, and I am 2 months behind. I was caught up, but now I'm 2 months behind again. Oh well, life happens. And I picked up this quilt kit. It's called Old Glory by Kim Deal or Dial. And it's from her Simple Whatnots. I'm not sure if it's Simple Whatnots 1 or Simple Whatnots 2. I have both of those books. There's actually a new one, Simple Whatnots 3, that I am putting on my Christmas wish list. I really like this. So I have the book that has this piece in it. And then they have this kit there with all these beautiful colors. And I'm like, I'm getting the kit for myself for my birthday. And it's just a little wall hanging. I'm newer into the Civil War reprint fabrics. That's newer to me, and that's what this is all involves. And I picked up this quilt book, Beyond the Battlefields by Mary Etherington and Connie Tessine. I like this book. I like the quilts in it. And there's a lot of biographical information about women in the Civil War, like Sojourner Truth, Julia Ward Howe, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Harriet Tubman, Louisa May Alcott, Clara Barton, Verena Howell Davis, the wife of Jefferson Davis. This one, I'm definitely making this quilt. Here. It is called Caring Hands. So I'm definitely going to be in that. So Phoebe Pember, a Southern Jewish woman and childless widow, came from a wealthy family in South Carolina. She was appointed as a hospital administrator and nurse during the Civil War. Thousands of soldiers under her administration were treated in Richmond, Virginia, which was the world's largest military hospital at the time. After the war, she wrote a memoir of her time in caring for wounded and dying soldiers. When my husband and I visited New Bern, North Carolina a few years ago, we visited the Steeney House, a house that George Washington actually slept in. We also visited Tryon Palace, which, yes, I've been catching up on Outlander. It's like, oh, I've been there. I know who they're talking about. The Steeney House was right next to a hospital in the New Bern, North Carolina area. And that period of history I think is really fascinating. And this beautiful quilt is another one. And I'm trying to find my favorite one in here. They're all just really, and use a lot of scraps, you know, and then throw it with a main one. This one I really like, Hiding in Plain Sight. Really, really like that one. So we'll see which ones I get done. It won't be done next week by any means. So that's my, oh, and I got some quilt clips. So when I put my quilts through my machine, I need something to hold the fabric so I'm not wrestling this bunch of fabric. Because trust me, it's an exhausting process if you have to wrestle and wrestle and wrestle this fabric. I've been doing some FFOing, and these cushions, this is from Buttermilk Basin, and it's actually a kit, and all of everything you see, including the buttons did not come with it. I had to find my own buttons. Or did the buttons come? No, I went through my collection of buttons and used those. Everything else came in the kit, except the stuffing and obviously the needle to do it, because it's the first time I really was putting stuff together with regard to wool felting, quilting. I don't know all the technical terms. And I really discovered I liked it. And so I thought I would try it with just a little kit. So all three are in the kit. I think it's called spring baskets. It could be summer baskets, but I think it's spring. Even the backing fabric was with it. So I had these sitting there, and I thought I might as well get them stuffed. I stuffed them with walnut shells. And while I was stuffing them, I stuffed this little guy. This guy is a Boyd's, or no, it's not a Boyd's Bear. It's, it reminds me of Boyd's Bears. It's a Stony Creek magazine. They had a, I keep saying I should go grab that Afghan. I am gonna do it. If you're familiar with Stony Creek magazine, they often will include like an Afghan, so every month you get 2 pieces of it or something like that. Well, then they'll often reprint it, and they reprinted this booklet, Teddies of the Year, and so it has all of them. So I bought the quilt fabric and cloth. So I finished this years ago. I just not sure exactly how to display it. But we've got January, all the call for fibers, February, and I did a few a year, March, April, May, one of my preemies, I remember stitching this while he was hooked up to his monitors in the hospital. June, he was a pretty sick boy, his first week of life. July, August, September. Now I don't stitch Halloween by choice, so I used November's bear for October. And Stony Creek often adds or does other bears throughout their magazine, and they had this one for it, so I did this one for November. Thanksgiving, you know, gathering with family. Thought that was really cute. And then December. And then I finished it according to their directions. And I should display it. I really need to. I keep forgetting about it. If they still have it available, I will link the pattern in the description box below. But I was stitching a piece for my daughters, and my son said, well, why aren't you stitching something for me, Mom? So I had to restitch April. It's a blue linen. It's probably 28 count Cashel, but I don't know what color. Call for threads. So I had him finished, and I stuffed him with polyfill. So I will put a loop on him and my son could hang him on the Christmas tree, even though he's 17. It'll be his. He was just so cute when he asked, well, why just, and I'm like, oh, break a mom's heart. And then I stuffed this guy, Plum Street Sampler's Buzz Off, and yes, I have this companion, Eat Crow, ready to stitch. This is on 36 count. I think it's just an antique white, and the model is stitched on 36 count. So yes, this is the size. A lot of Paulette's pieces, you're like, oh, that's just a little thing. No, no, not always. I used all the DMC. She gives you DMC alternatives to the overdyes, except for this guy, because I could see the variegation. I can't remember if this is Copper Penny or Colonial Penny, but between Buzz Off and Eat Crow, one of them has one more color than the other. Otherwise, they have all the same colors. So I already have Eat Crow kitted up, so I gotta stitch him. The only thing I would do differently if I restitch this is I think I would have used 2 strands on my black over one, or maybe sulky thread. He's a little sparse. But other than that, I liked all the DMC. I think it works better. But you know, you look at his face, he doesn't really care what you think of him. So he's ready to go onto my autumnal display whenever. I'll probably set that out in probably September. So I'll have him there. So I fully finished those. And then I fully finished another piece. I am part of an ornament exchange. So I'm going to be posting this video not right away. I will schedule it to be posted later, because sometimes she watches my videos and sometimes she doesn't. And if I tell her not to watch, then she will want to watch them. But part of an ornament exchange. And this is the ornament I chose to stitch. This is by Arlene Cohen, Just Cross Stitch magazine. I believe it's definitely the Christmas ornament issue, but I believe it was 2019. I used the call for threads and beads. The fabric is 32 count November Rain by Fiberlicious. I said Midnight Rain last time, so it's November Rain is what it is. And so I finished it in a cushion, and so I sewed, cut the bit in the middle, stuffed it, tack that shut, and instead of putting felt over it, I had this trim from when I was making doll dresses, and I just tacked the trim around. Now the scallop is free floating, but I just went around these little flowers and tacked that down so you can't see where the opening is. And then these are Mill Hill size 11 beads. And then I added a little dangle here. I had this from a floral thing, so I cut it off of the floral thing and then added just some different beads, different size beads. And whenever you do something like this, you definitely want to go through it a few times to reinforce it with quality thread. And I used quality sewing quilting thread. So I will be sending this out in the next week to her. And when I was at Stitchville, I picked up a little zippy dot, zappy dot, stitch dot. Maybe it's cold outside. Heartstring samplery pattern. And a little prairie schooler. I think she'll like those. So I gotta package that up and get that ready to go in the mail so she can get that. Yeah, so I did some FF-A-wing. But then I picked up my stitching, because even when I was tired, it was hard for me to quilt, to sit and quilt, but I could sit and stitch. So I pulled this piece out. I thought, oh, I'll get a little bit more done on it. And then the piece just kept calling to me and calling to me and calling to me. and it is this one. It is Baskets by Rosewood Manor. I think the last time I showed it I had page 1 through 6 completed, and so I finished 7, 8, and 9, which is roughly this section down. This is on 36 count Wren. Now the model was stitched on 28 count Wren, and I did use the Valdani threads, the little ball of thread. Those have 3 strands, and you're supposed to just use it as it comes off on the 28 count. I tried it. I could get 2 strands to lay really nice, and that 3rd strand I was fiddling with every single stitch, and I know myself, that would make me totally quit the piece. It's a gorgeous piece. Karen is a genius. I love Karen's patterns. So what I did is I bought the 36 count Wren. Is this a Lugana? Nope. This is a linen. And used 1 strand of the Valdani over 2 threads. And it has the same beautiful color, because Karen loves to use color, and it worked very, very, very well. So if you're having issues with the Valdani, those little balls, consider maybe using a different number of strands on a different piece of fabric. You might like the results better, and I think it's a little more, might even be a little more of a prim look to it, but it works. It works. And I also used one of those thread holders where you had all the needles threaded. I think there were 12 colors in this piece, so I had 12 needles, and because then I could just pick up a needle, there's 4 stitches here, put the needle back instead of re-threading my needle all the time. Because again, Karen loves to use so much color, but it adds so much depth to her pieces, and she is a very, very sweet woman. I have had the pleasure of meeting her in person, and her husband, and highly recommend her patterns. She's a genius. There are some eyelet stitches here, so if you were doing this on Aida cloth, instead of doing eyelets, I would suggest maybe doing Smyrna crosses to get the texture, or doing full crosses. Nobody would ever know. Other than that, it's full crosses and some back stitching, so this could easily be done on Aida cloth. I don't know how the Valdani would work on Aida cloth because I just have never tried it, but you could definitely change all the colors on this too, and it would still look gorgeous because Karen, again, is a genius. And I have some extra to trim off and use on something else, in a Christmas ornament or something. So I finished that at the end of June, and then I had a few days, and I kind of did a palette cleanser, if you will. And I pulled out my Bristol Sampler. This is from the the Gift of Stitching magazine, the final issue, May 2012. And I'm stitching it with DMC 816 on 40 count white, 1 strand over 2 threads. I have a couple more days, and then I could knock off a whip go number from a previous month. But again, it's kind of a palette cleanser. Sometimes you just need a little bit to kind of clear your head from a project before you move on to a different project. And that's what this was. And here we go. So I had this big alphabet done, so I was able to add here. So I have a couple more days, and then I can knock off that whip go number. For me, a day of stitching is roughly 2 hours. So there's a lot of stitching in those little letters, a lot more than at first glance. But again, I will get this. It's again kind of a palette cleanser, where I could just stitch on it and then move on to another piece when I'm ready. That's kind of been my approach to a lot of my stitching this year, is just kind of what's calling to me. And then I had a new start. Did I put the pattern back in here? I did. Liberty Games, Erica Michaels. I had this all kitted, and so I started it on July 1st. and finished it. Sometimes you just start a piece and it just calls to you and you just keep going. And that's what this piece was to me. This is 36 count vintage river willow by Lakeside Linens. Now I use the DMC conversion or alternatives that Linda Stoltz, the designer, gives you, except for the reds. I've learned that the red overdyes, you can usually see the variegation on most pieces, especially when there's a block of color like on this building. This called for Weeks Dye Works Baked Apple, which I did not have. So I used Weeks Dye Works Indian Summer instead. The flags, Betsy's Dress, the bunting, and a few other oddball reds called for Weeks Dye Works Raspberry, which I did not have, and I used Carrie's Creation Cottons Bordeaux. Carrie's Creation Cottons are no longer made, but the Bordeaux was very, very, very close to the DMC alternative that Linda lists. So I just pulled the DMC alternatives and then found an overdyed that was pretty close in shading to that overdyed, or excuse me, to the DMC. And then here is, it calls for Turkish red, which I did not have. I have it now, but I didn't have it then. I used ribbon red from Classic Color Works. Now on the bell up here, this symbol is used elsewhere in the pattern, and I used the DMC alternative wherever else it was used, but on the bell with a chunk of stitching like that, I used Smoke by Classic Color Works just for that motif. And I was going to use something on the support beam there, but I just used the DMC. And this was just a fun piece. Oh yeah, and this tree was charted for a DMC, but I used Gentle Arts Baby Spinach. So I took the DMC to my, because greens and reds are two color groups that you can usually see when there's a block of color. You can usually see that variegation, and often it adds to the piece. So that's why I chose to use those. But this was just a fun piece, and once I got going on it, I'm like, I'm not stopping. So I finished it on July 12th. And it was just a lot of fun. I did not change, because Gary was talking about it on Sunshine Stitchers. He finished his. I think I finished mine first. But anyway, he said something about the 13 being red on the picture, but charted blue. I just kept it blue. I don't know. If I would have known, would I have changed it? I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But I kept it. So I might have enough green over here, maybe this corner, to do, there's a berry with this piece. I don't think I have enough to do the drum, but yeah, there's a lady on a stitching, I think. So there's like 3 parts to this pattern that you can do. So this is the biggest part, and it was just a lot of fun. I really like Linda's patterns. And she's a very, very nice person to talk to. Kind of genius. So much so that when I was done with Liberty Games, I pulled out another Erica Michaels design that I had started before. So it was a whip. And it is called Grace and Blessings 1. So you have this piece, which that silk gauze is for, and then this piece. And this is the piece I had started. It says, "Be present at our table, Lord, be here and everywhere adored. Thy creatures bless and grant that we may feast in paradise with thee. Amen." This would be kind of, I want to hang this in my dining room. I think it would be kind of that type of sentiment. And this is 34 count Devonshire cream. And I am using 1 strand, but I'm not necessarily using the called for overdyes. I kind of picked, oh, that needs a green, so I picked a green. That needs a blue, I picked a blue. And I know the green is dried thyme. There's 4 colors in this. Maybe 5. Let's see if I've got my ring. available. There's 4. So the blue is Black Raspberry Jam. That's the words. The red, which I have not put on here yet, is Briar Rose. Oh, I'm sorry, the green is Endive. I thought it was Dried Thyme. And those 3 are all General Arts, and Caterpillar is the brown, which is the inner border. So sorry. Oh, that must be pollinating. The cottonwoods, oh, they get me every year. The brown is Caterpillar by Classic Color Works, and that's the inner border. The outer border is the green. It only goes over about here, and this is how far down it goes, right in here. So it can all fit in this Q-snap. Actually, it's a wannabe Q-snap. It's one of those brands. I mean, it's not horrible, but I will say the more I use Q-snap, the more I like the authentic Q-snap. I don't know, seems to work so much better. And then this one. Okay. So I have had this series for a little while. It's by Cottage Garden. I always say that name wrong. Cottage Garden. And I like her patterns. I believe she's a Philippine artist, if I remember. I thought she was a Philippine designer. Anyway, I like her designs. And I had this kit this set for a while, or I had the first 9 for a while, and the last 3 came out. It's just been sitting there. I'm like, Diane, you need to do this. So my goal ultimately is at some point to stitch one of these sets of 12 Days of Christmas for each of my children. I have 14 children. I realize it's going to take me a while, but I need a set first. I'm not going to wait to have everybody else's done and then do mine. I'm doing mine first. And so I started Partridge in a Pear Tree. Two turtle doves. And again, pictures don't do these patterns justice. 3 French hens. Which I had this one started before, but I'm restarting it because I actually now have the over-dyed. This is DMC with 1 over-dyed. I think all 3 of these actually just each have 1 over-dyed. 4 collie birds. I know in America we usually say calling, but European usually says collie. 5 golden rings, which has beads on it. 6 geese a laying. I'm from the Midwest. We often drop our G's. 7 swans a swimming. It's just one I brought to StitchCon in 2021 and exchanged. 8 maids a milking. 9 ladies dancing. I love this one. This one has all over-dyeds, and I'm going to try and stitch it in all over-dyeds. These are not all the same size. Cottage. 10 Lords Leaping. All by the same designer, though. This one has a mixture of DMC and has 3 over-dyeds. Same with this one. 11 Pipers Piping. And 12 Drummers Drumming. So when I went to Stitchville yesterday, after I did my other errands, I had pulled a lot of these colors in here are going to be used across those ornaments. So Stitchville didn't have all the colors. There's a few others I'm going to have to order from other places. Mostly the Gentle Arts, like the Heirloom Gold and the Country Redwood. I know that those 2 are harder to find, supply issues. So I'll just keep looking, and when I find them, I find them. But the Country Redwood is not used until day number 12. And here is day number 1. So I'm going to stitch them all on 40 count natural. And here is day number 1. I'm trying to see what you guys can see. This is all DMC except for the dark green in the leaves. That is Grasshopper. Classic Color Works. Yeah. Classic Color Works for that piece. She always gives you DMC alternatives too. And the DMC looks just as good. So this one I should be able to finish today. I have the flower pot and some of the greenery in here needs that dark green. And then day 1 will be done. And then I'll do day 2. Again, I don't think any of these are the same size. The day 1 is 95 by 106. And I'm not sure what day 2 is. So there'll be different sizes. What I'm thinking is these will make, like, have a basket with them. Or a dough bowl or something. I don't think there would be ornaments on the tree per se. Another reason to do a set for myself, because then I can kind of think through, noodle through those things. Excuse me when I step out of the screen. Oops. That way that won't get damaged. I also had a 25% off coupon at Joann's, so I was able to go and get DMC. And because it was 25% off everything, regular price or sale price, I'm like, wow, DMC. So I kitted up this piece, Scarlet Letter Amelia Boyce. I know I've shown this before. This is charted in NPI. Is this one even charted in NPIs? One of them I got. Yeah, I'm sorry, Aversois. DMC or Aversois. I'm using the DMCs. Oh, I didn't do the recommended skeins. Oops. Oh, I'm gonna have to look at that. See if I have to pick up a couple more skeins. I know I have 2 310 skeins. I didn't even look at that when I was at Joann's, but that's okay. I got 25% off my DMC. And then at Stitchville, I picked up 40 count ivory because I think it'll work very well with that piece. And then this piece, a dear friend gifted me Sampler and Antique Needlework Quarterly magazines. And so this one spoke to me. I went through them and this one spoke to me. It's called Birds and Baskets Sampler. It's charted for DMC, which is what I'm going to use. I know these 2 birds here are 1/1, and there's some satin stitches in here, but everything else is basic cross and some back stitching. I don't think that there is any other specialty stitch. I'm sorry, there are Smyrna crosses in here too. So eyelet Smyrna crosses, back stitch, regular cross stitch. And I thought there were some satin stitches. Oh, I didn't get the pearl cotton. I missed that. But I might already have that pearl cotton. Because on these, can you see it on the cover? So on these vines up here, instead of using just regular DMC, you use pearl cotton to get a thicker vine, but that's okay. I can do that. And I got 40 count antique white because I think those greens will just really stand out. I also picked up just another piece of antique white. I think I was going to use this for Fragments in Time 2021 because those are pretty much full coverage. I think that's what I was doing with that, because for my children this Christmas I have decided to stitch Fragments in Time 2022. I have number 1 and 2, so I was able to pick up 3 and 4. And when she does Summer House Stitche Workes, Beth, I want to say Swan. I could totally be wrong on that, and I apologize if I'm wrong. The Susquehanna Valley Samplers. I picked up 40 count Woodland Brown, and I picked up the colors. They're Weeks Dye Works. All 8, there ultimately will be 8 patterns. There's only 4 available, at least as of yesterday. There's supposed to be 2 more coming out within the next month. Yeah, if her website is correct. All of them use the same samplers, so these threads, and I need to stitch 2 sets And then I'll have my kids pick which one they like for their ornament for this year. And then I'll just stick the extras on my tree. Because these are only 51 by 51. And they're just so cute. And I have all of 2018 because I found those at a freebie table at a Stitch thing. Or at least 6 of them were there. 6, 7 of them. And I have 2021s. And these 2022s. So I also want to get 2019s. And I have to remember 2017s. I know 2020 had the words. But I picked those up. And I was stitching on a piece. And it calls for NPI, so I was stitching with the NPIs. The NPIs that are called for in that piece called May These Lines of Relic Prove are just too close in shade. You cannot see any detail, and it just really, really bugs me. I don't know, maybe it's the fabric I'm stitching it on or something. So I chose 2 different NPIs. They're supposed to be, I think, peachy roses. So I chose these peachy colors, or pumpkin, to sub out. So I'm going to try those in that piece because that piece, it's so beautiful. And the NPIs, they're not cheap. I don't want to feel like I wasted my money. And I had a gift certificate from friends. And I used that for my silk purchases. And again, I don't want it to go to waste. I also went to they have kind of a clearance section in Stitchville in the back corner by the bathroom. And I found this one, Ravenswood Sampler by Rosewood Manor. And again, her pictures never do her projects justice. So I'm sure this is beautiful. This is charted for a DMC. Another one of her patterns that I don't know if I've seen that one before. I know I have not seen this one before. Acorn Forest. It reminds me color-wise of Arise My Soul, which I have stitched. This one is Stitche Workes. Prize Your Liberty by Kreations. Thought that was really cute. It's just a little guy. All that grass would be fun. The grass is done in poblano pepper, crescent color. I might have that color. Yeah, this combines crescent colors, DMC, sampler threads, and Stitche Workes. But she gives you alternatives for all the overdyes in the DMC colorway. But with that grass, I think I would want that variegation, but it's just a cute little piece. And it's roughly, what is it, 69 by 148. Snow Proud Sampler by For My Boys. I do not know if these patterns are available. Stitchville, what they put in their clearance area is sometimes maybe they have a pattern that's perfectly usable, but maybe has a little bit of damage, like this one has a little damage up here. Maybe they ordered 6 and they received 9. Maybe they're just not in print anymore, not available to purchase the item anymore. So yeah, I looked through the section and I found this one by Papillon or Papillon. I cannot say that word. I know it means butterfly. Kreations. And it's called Alphabetissimo. So here is the sampler with cut work and specialty stitches. And here it's just cross stitch. Maybe with a little back stitch, but just cross stitch. Either of these is beautiful. What I really liked when I was looking at it is they say a dark color and a light color. You choose the colorway. And they tell you how many yards you need of each, or meters. Does it say meters or yards? Yards. But then there's also this smaller sampler and some bookmarks. And the large sampler is 239 by 198. The small sampler 92 by 82. And the bookmarks, the biggest one is 22 by 75. So lots of options on here. Not to mention the fact that each of my children has a different first initial. So I could even just pull just their initials for a Christmas ornament. yeah, I like the different style. I mean, it's all one alphabet, but different styles for the letters. I just thought that was beautiful, and this is probably the one I'll do. I don't mind specialty stitches, but I will admit that cut work makes me nervous. I've done it, but it makes me nervous. So I found that one too. And then I'm looking at reorganizing my DMC. Right now I'm using those snap box things. It's not working for me. If I had because I have to put my stuff away all the time, and that's not a bad habit to have by any means, but I don't have a set stitchy room that I can have a master set and pull. That's just not working for me. So, but I do have pegboards, and so having rings, these are the 3-inch rings, got them off of Amazon, and playing cards, that works well for me. To make floss drops, I'll take a playing card, these are blank, cut it in half, lengthwise, and then I'll put a big hole for the thread and a little hole to go into a ring, and then I could write whatever on here that I want in Sharpie, and then I usually put the symbol on the back, and then when, let's say I don't use all of this and I reuse it for a project, I'll just cross off this symbol and put a different symbol in, or I'll put a label across that, or I wouldn't want to have white out, but just a label over it and then put a new symbol on. These can handle the wear and tear better than just regular cardstock because they're kind of that glossy, thicker playing card material. So that works really well. And that way, if you have, I use it mostly for my DMC, but I also have it for some inker. You could label it however you want to label it. And I think that is going to work better on my wall for my DMC storage in particular, because I'm buying duplicates, and sometimes that's okay and sometimes it's not, and I want to use what I have, and blah 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 blah. The only other last haul I have is my Silks of the Month from Fiberlicious. And for June, which I had not received in my last video yet, Mermaid Tails was her colorway. Dark turquoise, water dance, sea crystal, mermaid song, seahorse. These are 40 meters of spun silk, 1 strand. Gathering Beauty. So what she does is she has the lengths, so it's already cut to the 1 yard, and then if you want it smaller, cut it smaller. This one is July's. Green Sprout, Blushing Linen, Sparkling Rose, Wild Willow, and Amber Glow. With her spun silk, first of all, her customer service is fabulous, but the post office, for some reason, between her place of business, which I believe, I know it's Pennsylvania, I'm not sure if it's Philly or Pittsburgh, sometimes they can't find my house. She's like, yeah, I shipped it out, and I'm like, what? And we look and we look and we look, and lo and behold, it shows up. Like my June one showed up late, my July one showed up on time. Don't understand it, but her customer service is excellent. Her products are excellent. I've used her fabrics, which are fabulous to stitch on, her cottons, and these are her silks. I will say with her spun silk, I have noticed, well, honestly with most of my silks, having a needle with a smaller eye works better for me with the silk when I'm using 1 strand. If I was using 2 strand, a little larger eye on my needle. But other than that, I really like using her silks. They're beautiful. And some of them are higher, have a little more variegation, but I love these glistening beauty colors. Sometimes she has extra sets of her threads of the month, so you can check her website. and they'd be, I want to say they're limited edition is the name of the tab, but you know, and then when she runs out, she runs out. And some of these might be in her regular line also, because you can buy them individually. And I really like this blushing linen. I might have to get a separate, another skein or two of that. So I highly recommend her. I will link her below. I also have my threads of the month from my nest egg from Trisha. I've been getting, I had gotten Gentle Arts for a while, and then I went to Classic Color Works, and now I am getting Week Stitche Works. And because in general I don't have a lot of weeks, that's not project related. I'm just building my stash. So if you're looking at building your stash, consider Trisha's nest egg program. She does a fabulous job customer service wise, packaging wise, and I must say with my Fiberlicious package and actually my my Week Stitche Works package for the month of July, I don't know what they put those packages through. But both vendors, they use those waterproof mailers. And I know with the Fiberlicious one that I got this week, I thought, oh, those threads are going to be so damaged. Pristine. And the same thing with Trisha. I looked at the package and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, their machine must have been hungry or something. But the threads were perfectly in perfect condition. And both of these ladies do a fabulous job. So I'll link both below. But I think that's all I have. I hope I remembered everything. The quilt pattern is called Arcadia Avenue by Sassafras Quilts. And I will try and remember to link that in the description box below. I will link everything I can possibly link. But if I don't, please, you know, feel free to reach out to me and say, you know, you forgot to put the quilt name in it. Please remind me what it is. The blocks are Kona Cotton Solids in a Fat Quarter bundle we got from Fat Quarter Shop. The light, medium, and darks have a tone-on-tone pattern, and then the two colored diamonds, the purple and the blue, are batiks. But yeah, just reach out to me. My email, mondotstitches@gmail.com, and I'm on Instagram, mondotstitches, one word. No, you know, underlining or anything like that. Someone did request that I consider doing a silk gauze stitching tutorial. I think I figured out how to do it because it's so intricate. I think I know how I want to do it. So you may see that video before this one, because again, I gotta get my hair cut again. I'm going to do this one, release it probably around the 1st of August. So the person who's going to receive my ornament isn't spoiled. The surprise isn't spoiled. She knows that I'm stitching it for her, but beyond that. So, oh, and I also, let's just the real thing. I'm liking them more, and I'm using my Lowry more, and I haven't really had a set stitching spot for years. So I think it's helping me speed up my stitching. But I'm going to just stitch on the 12 days, finish that one, start working on day number 2. And then when I get tired of that, I'm going to go to the fragments, and I'm just going to go between the 2 of them because I want to get those done. Yeah, so this next month I just have my annual physical mammogram. Ladies, get it done. Eye doctor, you know, all that stuff. The adult stuff that we have to do. Not dental, because that'll be October, but yeah. Sometimes being an adult sucks. But it's not bad. It's not bad. I've been truly blessed with a fabulous husband, kids, and oh, did I mention this? I know I mentioned it last video. Maybe I'm going to repeat myself. I'm sorry. Well, not really. My daughter called me yesterday to wish me happy birthday, my oldest daughter, and she had a follow-up with her oncologist. Everything's good. She was declared cancer-free Valentine's Day 2019, and she's still there, so she has another one in 6 months, and then after that I think it'll be a year, and then after that 2 or 3 years. And if you've walked that road yourself or with a loved one, you know having an uneventful doctor's visit is a good day. It's a good day. But other than that, just enjoying our summer. Gearing up for homeschool starting in August, and we'll go from there. So I will talk to all of you later. Kind of doing a social media fast a little bit because we all need to kind of unplug every once in a while. But love to you all, and I will talk to you later. Bye.